Hey, Dan Beagleman here. This video is on the Mixolydian mode. It's the fifth in a series of 7 videos on the modes based on the major diatonic scale. In this video, I'll talk about the chemistry of the Mixolydian mode, what makes it sound the way it does, talk about using it for soloing, improvising, applications for use. I'll discuss the correct chord type or types to use Mixolydian mode with, and I'll also show you how to connect it with the pentatonic and the blues scales. So, on to the Mixolydian mode. What makes the Mixolydian mode sound the way it does? Every scale, every mode has a pattern or formula to it of steps, and by following that pattern you'll create the mode or the scale. The pattern for a Mixolydian mode is whole, whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole. A whole step is equivalent to 2 frets, a half step is equivalent to 1 fret. So I'll play a Mixolydian mode. I'll use C as an example. I'll play a C Mixolydian mode on string 2, and I'm going to play it horizontally just on 1 string, so this way you can really clearly see that pattern laying out of a whole step or 2 frets and a half step or 1 fret as I move up. Okay, C Mixolydian mode on string 2. C note, and now whole step higher, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step, and whole step to complete. So here's the, again, C Mixolydian mode on string 2. Okay? Now, if I look at the notes I just played, C, D, E, F, G, A, B flat, C. I see that the C Mixolydian mode has 6 natural notes and 1, and 1 flat. It has a B flat. What key or scale has a B flat note? The answer is F, an F major scale, or the key of F. Okay? So a C Mixolydian mode shares the same notes as an F major scale. So you could think of it, if you want to play a Mixolydian mode, you can play a major scale built on the 4th of the key that you're in. In other words, I'm in the key of C, let's say, and I want to play C Mixolydian mode. I could just play an F scale, but I want to focus on the C note, not the F note, because C is my key, and I want that to be what really, I want that to be the key center, as my ears want to hear that as the center tone or the central tone, as the other notes revolve around that. So again, here's an F scale across these 6 strings. And sounds like an F chord. Now if I play the same pattern but starting and ending on a C note, it's going to sound like this. And it sounds like a 7th chord, or a dominant sounding chord, 7th, 9th. And that's where you can clearly see the Mixolydian mode is perfect for playing blues type chords, 7ths, 9ths, and chords in that family. Now as a comparison of the C Mixolydian mode to the C Ionian mode, of the C major scale, as I showed you a while ago, that the C Mixolydian mode has all natural notes but 1 flat. The C Ionian mode, or C major scale, has all natural notes. Here's a C Ionian mode, or C major scale. And sounds like a C chord. Perfect, fits. If I just change that B note to a flat, and I place the Mixolydian mode now, right? It turns it into a 7th sounding chord, a dominant sounding chord. So it's that critical note, the B to a B flat, in the key of C, that really creates that Mixolydian sound. So another way to look at a Mixolydian mode is a major scale with a flat 7th. Again, here's a C major scale. And the seventh tone you can see is B. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And if I flat the B, instead of playing B, I play B flat. And right there's the giveaway that it sounds exactly like a seventh chord or a ninth. Again, good for dominant family chords. As I mentioned in previous videos, there are three categories of chords. There are major type chords, minor type chords, and dominant type chords. The major type chords have a major third and or a major seventh, or a natural third and a natural seventh. The minor type chords have a flatted third and or a flatted seventh. The dominant family of chords have a major third or a natural third but a flat seventh. So it's kind of in between the two of them, if you will. And again, as I mentioned in other videos, there are, with being that there are 7 modes on the major diatonic scale, 2 of the modes are major sounding modes, Ionian and Lydian, because they have a natural third and a natural seventh. 4 modes are minor sounding modes, Dorian, Phrygian, Aeolian, and Locrian, because they have flatted thirds and flatted sevenths. So the one mode that has the one mode that belongs to the dominant family is this Mixolydian mode, because again it has a natural third but a flatted seventh, and it's that flat seventh that really changes everything. That's what gives it that bluesy sound. Okay, so Mixolydian mode is your go-to scale in a lot of ways for playing blues, blues rock, and all kinds of things like that. And I'll show you later in this video how to use it and connect it with pentatonic scales and have a nice musical sandbox. I like to use that phrase, a nice musical sandbox to play in. There are many patterns for playing scales and modes across the fingerboard, but this one here I think is not only a user-friendly one, but I'll show you how this can work with connecting to pentatonic and blues scales later on in this video. Okay, I'm in position 5, and that means I'm covering frets 5 through 8. Here's a C Mixolydian mode. The pattern is Mixolydian, and the root note, I'm going to start with my 4th finger on string 6. There's my C note. So here's C Mixolydian mode, position 5. And you can hear it sounds like a 7th chord. I said earlier that a C Mixolydian mode and an F major scale have the same notes. So if I start on an F note, which is here, and play the same exact notes, but just starting and ending on the F note, it sounds like this. Sounds like Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do in the key of F. So you can clearly hear that depending on which note you choose as the key center will really change everything up. Again, F scale or Mixolydian mode starting on F sounds like an F scale, sounds like an F chord, I mean. Same notes starting on C. Okay, so you can clearly hear the difference. So the Mixolydian mode definitely gives you that bluesier sound, and as I said earlier, you can think of it as a major scale built 1/4 above it, but focus on the, if I'm in the key of C, play an F scale, but focus on the C note, not the F note as your key center. Earlier I mentioned that a Mixolydian mode is a dominant sounding mode, works with the dominant type chords. There are 3 chord categories: major type chords, minor type chords, and dominant type chords. Your major chords are like major, major 7, major 9, anything like that. Minor type chords, minor, minor 7th, minor 11th, da da da. And the dominant chords are the 7th, 9th, 11th, like the bluesier sounding chords. What makes up a major chord? Your basic triad. Here's a C scale. Okay? What makes up the basic major triad is the 1, 3, 5. You take the first, third, and fifth note of the scale, and you will have a major chord. So if I play the first, third, and fifth note of C, I have C, E, G. And it sounds like C major chord. A minor chord is 1 flat 3, 5. You flat the third to make a major chord into a minor chord. Okay? And you can hear clearly the difference. So the major and the minor chords have just 3 principal notes to make them happen. 1, 3, and 5. The next note that would come in, because chords are built in a series of thirds, the first, third, fifth, seventh, 9, 11th, the even number 6 is used for a 6th chord, and a 4, 2 and a 4 would be used for suspended chords. But primarily chords are built on thirds, using the odd numbers, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. Anyway, getting into the weeds here a little bit. To make a major chord again, 1, 3, 5, minor, 1 flat 3, 5. Now, when you want to get into the dominant chord family, you need to bring in the next number, which is 7, 1, 3, 5, 7. But that also works with advanced major chords. In other words, if I played the first 1, 3, 5 for a major chord, I have C major. If I add the 7th tone of that scale, which is B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so I'd have, that would give me a major 7th chord, C, E, G, B. Okay? Now, as I mentioned before, that the C Mixolydian mode has a B flat, so if I play this, C, E, G, instead of B, like I just showed you, if I played C, E, G, B flat, you could hear that. So a C 7th chord is a dominant chord which needs at least the first 4 notes to make it happen. C, E, G, B flat, which is number 7. If I go to 9, it's the D note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And now I have a 9th chord. Okay? But as you can see, the B flat note, the flatted 7th, is what really gives it its characteristic sound. Again, here's a C major scale, or C Ionian mode. And if I flat the 7th, just by changing that one note, flatting that 7th degree by a half step, pushes me from the major category into the dominant category. Let's talk about mixing the Mixolydian mode with pentatonic and blues scales. The interesting thing about the Mixolydian mode is that you can mix it up with both major and minor pentatonic scales and both major and minor blues scales, where with the other 6 modes they're limited to either major or minor type pentatonic and blues scales. In other words, there are 4 minor modes: Dorian, Phrygian, Aeolian, and Locrian, and they will mix with only minor pentatonic and minor blues scales because they have a flat 3rd and a flat 7th, and they belong to the minor chord family. And the 2 major modes, Ionian and Lydian, have a natural 3rd and a natural 7th, so they will mix with major pentatonic and major blues scales because they belong to the major chord family. And the interesting thing about the Mixolydian mode is because it has a natural 3rd, which sort of leans it into the major chord family, but a flat 7th, which kind of leans it into the minor chord family, it actually sits well with both in a blues type situation. It won't work, Mixolydian mode will not work with minor chords because it has a natural 3rd, but the flat 7th gives it that edge, if you will, a little, not really minor sounding, but a little bit, more bluesier sounding, if you will, not as pretty, because again, the Ionian mode is very pretty, that do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, but when you flat the 7th, it sort of gives it that little edge, and it shaves off some of that prettiness, if you will, and gives a little bit more of a darker, edgier feel to it. As I showed you earlier, a common pattern for the Mixolydian mode, and I'll use the key of C as an example, is this. I'm in position 5, my pinky is on the 6th string, C note, so that means I'm covering frets 5 through 8. Here's a C Mixolydian mode in position 5. Now, here's a C major pentatonic scale. Same position, same starting and ending note, that low C note on string 6. And here's a C major blues scale. Same position, same starting note. And now I'm going to replace my pinky with my first finger, putting me in position 8, and I'm now going to play a C minor pentatonic scale. And now a C minor blues scale. So 5 patterns in a similar area. With my pinky on the root note on string 6, I can play a Mixolydian mode, a major pentatonic, and a major blues. And if I put my first finger on that same note, I can play a minor pentatonic and a minor blues. And as I said, both of those pentatonic scales and both of those blues scales can mix in well with the Mixolydian mode and give you access to a lot of possibilities. The difference is pretty straight ahead. You can hear it when you play the major pentatonic or major blues versus the minor pentatonic and the minor blues. Check out my video on pentatonic and blues scales for a deeper dive into those two types of scales, major and minor pentatonic and major and minor blues. Now, the Mixolydian mode, although it's a dominant mode and it's good for blues type chords, sevenths, ninths, things like that, it's not so widely used in straight up blues music or used by the great blues guitar players, Clapton, Johnny Winter, Stevie Ray, Jimi Hendrix, too many to name, so I'm sure you all have your favorites. But that being said, when you're playing straight up blues, you're pretty much just relying on the major, minor pentatonic, and major, minor blues scales, where the Mixolydian mode tends to sit better in a blues rock, jazz rock type setting. Let's say guitar players like Larry Carlton, Robin Ford would tend to use more of the mode type scales, or use modes and things like that, which sort of takes it into the little bit more of a fusion type of a setting, as opposed to straight up blues type licks that we usually hear in blues music. One other thing I should mention is there is some blues music where you cannot use both pentatonics and both type of blues, and that's if a blues tune is in a specific minor key. For example, The Thrill Is Gone by B.B. King, being that song is in a minor key. I think it's in the key of B minor. So that being said, you are limited to just minor pentatonic and minor blues in that playing in that song or in that situation. Here's another interesting thing about the Mixolydian mode regarding harmonica, or harp as we like to call it. If you're playing a blues tune and somebody pulls a harp out and wants to play along, they need to use a harp that's built on the fourth of the key that you're in. Okay? Because the Mixolydian, remember I said the Mixolydian mode is the same as playing a major scale built on the fourth of your key. Unless someone's using a chromatic harp, most harps are just like major scales. So a C harp would be C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, all natural notes. Okay? That goes for all the keys. If you were playing blues in E, let's say Roadhouse Blues by the Doors, okay, and you want to play a harp to that, I'm in the key of E. If you played an E harp, it would clash, because if you played an E harmonica, which would have an E major scale, basically, you'd have that natural seventh, D sharp, and against the D chord, against the E seventh chord, it would sound pretty weird playing Roadhouse Blues. Ouch, right? So the Mixolydian mode to E is the same as an A scale, and they would take that D sharp and bring it back to a D natural, and then you would have something that sounds right. Regarding, again, with harmonicas or harps, whatever key you're in, in a blues situation, the harp should be built on the fourth of the key. If you're playing blues in E, use an A harp. If you're playing blues in G, use a C harp. If you're playing blues in F, use a B flat harp. Okay? Because that will give you the sound of the Mixolydian mode. And if you don't, if you use the same key, you'll be having some people giving you the evil eye, or maybe taking their shoe off and throwing it at you. So don't forget, harmonica, the fourth above the key. Now I'll play a little bit using the Mixolydian mode mixed with both major and minor pentatonic scales and major and minor blues scales. I'll use the key of C to demonstrate. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave any questions or comments in the comments section below. I'm Dan Beagleman, and that's the Mixolydian mode. Have a nice day.